Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. Happy morning, dear students. Let us continue our supplementary reader now. When they were gone, Axiano recalled what had been said, and when he remembered that his wife also had suspected him, he said to himself, "It seems that only God can know the truth. It is to Him alone we must appeal, and from Him alone expect mercy." And Axiano wrote no more petitions, gave up all hope, and only prayed to God. He was dejected that his wife too suspected him. He felt that only God could show mercy. So he gave up sending petitions and only prayed to God. Axiano was condemned to be flogged and sent to the mines. So he was flogged with a knot, and when the wounds made by the knot were healed, he was driven to Siberia with other convicts. Axiano was punished and was pegged with the stick or belt and sent to the mines to work. When his wounds got healed, he was sent to Siberia with other criminals. For 26 years, Axiano lived as a convict in Siberia. His hair turned white as snow, and his beard grew long, thin, and grey. All his mirth went. He stooped, he walked slowly, spoke little, and never laughed, but he often prayed. 26 years he lived as a criminal in Siberia. His hair turned white as snow, his beard grew long, thin and grey. He stooped, that is bent down. He began to walk very, very slowly. He spoke little to others and forgot laughing, but often what he did was praying to God. In prison, Axiano learned to make boots and earned a little money, with which he bought the lives of the saints. He read this book, and there was light enough in the prison. And on Sundays, in the prison church, he read the lessons and sang in the choir, for his voice was still good. He learned to make boots, got money through that, and bought a book, The Lives of the Saints. He read that book when there was enough light in the prison. On Sundays, in the prison church, he sang songs in the choir and read the lessons from this book. The prison authorities liked Axiano for his meekness, and his fellow prisoners respected him. They called him grandfather and the saint. When they wanted to petition the prison authorities about anything, they always made Axiano their spokesman. And when there were quarrels among the prisoners, they came to him to put things right and to judge the matter. The prison authorities liked him for his gentleness, and the other convicts respected him and called him as grandfather and the saint. When there were quarrels, the other prisoners came to him to set things right and to judge the matter. No news reached Axiano from his home, and he did not even know if his wife and children were still alive. One day, a fresh gang of convicts came to the prison. In the evening, the old prisoners collected round the new ones and asked them what towns or villages they came from and what they were sentenced for. Among the rest, Axiano sat down near the newcomers and listened with downcast air to what was said. He got no news about his family. He did not know whether they were still alive. One day, a gang of prisoners came to the prison. The old prisoners surrounded the new prisoners and asked them from where they were coming Axiano was also sitting and listening to them. One of the new convicts, a tall, strong man of 60 with a closely cropped grey beard, was telling the others what he had been arrested for. Well, friends, he said, I only took a horse that was tied to a sledge and I was arrested and accused of stealing. I said I had only taken it to get home quicker and had then let it go. Besides, the driver was a personal friend of mine. So I said, it's all right. No, said they, you stole it. But how or where I stole it, they could not say. I once really did something wrong and ought by rights to have come here long ago. But that time I was not found out. Now I have been sent here for nothing at all. Yeah, but lies, I'm telling you. I have been to Siberia before, but I did not stay long. One among them, who was almost 60, began to tell his story. He said that he had taken a horse from its sledge and he also added that it was his own friend's horse. Even though after reaching his place, he let the horse to go, he was accused for stealing the horse. He also said that he had done many wrong things before and he was not punished for that. But he had visited Siberia before but had not stayed there long. Where are you from? Asked someone. From Vladimir. My family are of that town. My name is Makar and they also call me Samyonich. Axiano raised his head and said, Tell me, Semyonich, do you know anything of the merchants Axiano of Vladimir? Are they still alive? Know them? Of course, I do. The Axianos are rich, though their father is in Siberia, a sinner like ourselves. It seems. As for you, Granddad, how did you come here? One among them asked him from where he was coming. He said that he was Makar from Vladimir and they also call him as Samyonich. Axiano raised his head and asked Makar whether he knew anything about the merchants Axiano of Vladimir. He said they were very rich even though their father was in Siberia, and he asked Axiano who he was. Axiano did not like to speak of his misfortune. He only sighed and said, For my sins, I have been in prison these 26 years. What sins? Asked Makar Semyonich. But Axiano only said, Well, I must have deserved it. He shied and said that he was in the prison of Siberia for 26 years for his sins. He asked what sins he had committed. He would have said no more, but his companions told the newcomers how Axiano came to be in Siberia. How someone had killed a merchant and had put the knife among Axiano's things, and Axiano had been unjustly condemned. The other prisoner said that he had not committed any sin. Instead, someone had killed a merchant and kept the knife in his bag. When Makar Semyonich heard this, he looked at Axiano, slapped his own knee, and exclaimed, Well, this is wonderful, really wonderful. But how old you have grown, Granddad? On hearing this, he slapped his own knee and said that Axiano had grown much older. The others asked him why he was so surprised and where he had seen Axiano before. But Makar Semyonich did not reply. He only said, It's wonderful that we should meet here, lads. The others asked why he was so surprised and where he had seen Axiano before. He said that he had met him in that prison only. These words made Axiano wonder whether this man knew who had killed the merchant. So he said, Perhaps, Semyonich, you have heard of that affair. Or maybe you have seen me before. This made Axiana to doubt on Makar and asked him whether he had heard about the incident happened to him. How could I help hearing? The word's full of rumors, but it's a long time ago and I have forgotten what I have heard. Perhaps you heard who killed the merchant, asked Axiana. He replied that he had heard about the rumors and also long time before he had forgotten everything. Makar Semyonich laughed and replied, "It must have been him in whose bag the knife was found. If someone else hid the knife there, he's not a thief till he's caught, as the saying is. How could anyone put a knife into a bag while it was under your head? It would surely have woke you up." Makar Semyonich laughed and said the thief must be the one in whose bag the knife was found out. He also said that if someone had hid the knife in his bag, still he was caught, Axiana was the thief. He asked Axiana, how could one kill the merchant and keep the knife in his bag without waking him up? When Axiana heard these words, he felt sure this was the man who had killed the merchant. He rose and went away. All that night, Axiana lay awake. He felt terribly unhappy and all sorts of images rose in his mind. There was an image of his wife as she was when he parted from her to go to the fair. He saw her as if she were present. Her face and her eyes rose before him. He heard her speak and laugh. Then he saw his children, quite little, as they were at that time, one with a little cloak on, another at his mother's breast. When he heard these words, he felt sure that Makar was the one who killed the merchant and kept the knife in his bag. So he stood and went away from that place. All through the night, he was unable to sleep and felt unhappy. All the images of wife and little children came up to his mind. And then he remembered himself as he used to be, young and merry. He remembered how he sat playing the guitar in the porch of the inn where he was arrested, and how free from care he had been. He saw in his mind the place where he was flogged, the executioner, and the people standing around, the chains, the convicts, all the 26 years of his prison life, and his premature old age. The thought of it all made him so wretched that he was ready to kill himself. He remembered his young stage. He brought back all the images, how he played guitar, how he was arrested, how he was in that prison for 26 years. He felt much unhappy and ready to kill himself. And it's all that villain's doing, thought Axiana. And his anger was so great against Makar Semyonich that he longed for vengeance, even if he himself should perish for it. He kept repeating prayers all night but could get no peace. During the day, he did not go near Makar Semyonich nor even look at him. He got much anger on Makar. All through the night he prayed but could not get peace. The next day, he did not meet Makar nor looked at him. A fortnight passed in this way. Axiana could not sleep at night and was so miserable that he did not know what to do. 2 weeks passed away. He was so sad and did not know what to do. One night, as he was walking about the prison, he noticed some earth that came rolling out from under one of the shelves on which the prisoners slept. He stopped to see what it was. Suddenly, Makar Semyonich crept out from under the shelf and looked up at Axiana with a frightened face. Axiana tried to pause without looking at him, but Makar seized his hand and told him that he had dug a hole under the wall, getting rid of the earth by putting it into his high boots and emptying it out every day on the road when the prisoners were driven to their work. "Just you keep quiet, old man, and you shall get out too. If you blab,
They'll flog the life out of me, but I will kill you first.
One night, Axiano noticed that Makka digging a hole to escape. Makka threatened Axiano that he should not reveal the truth to the officer. If he do that, they would flog his life and he would kill him first.
Axiano trembled with anger as he looked at his enemy. He drew his hand away, saying, I have no wish to escape, and you have no need to kill me. You killed me long ago. As to telling of you, I may do so or not, as God shall direct.
Axiano looked at him with anger and said that he had killed him before 26 years itself, and he would do what God shows him at time, and moved away from that place.
Next day, when the convicts were let out to work, the convoy soldiers noticed that one or other of the prisoners emptied some earth out of his boots. The prison was searched and the tunnel found. The governor came and questioned all the prisoners to find out who had dug the hole. They all denied any knowledge of it. Those who knew would not betray Makka Semyonich, knowing he would be flogged almost to death. At last, the governor turned to Axiano, whom he knew to be just a man, and said, You are a truthful old man. Tell me before God who dug the hole.
Next day, it was found that a hole was dug in the prison, and the officers asked other prisoners about it. Even though some knew the truth, did not reveal it. At last, the governor turned to Axiano and asked him to say the truth.
Makka Semyonich stood as if he were quite unconcerned, looking at the governor, not so much as glancing at Axiano. Axiano's lips and hands trembled, and for a long time he could not utter a word. He thought, why should I screen him who ruined my life? Let him pay for what I have suffered. But if I tell, they will probably flog the life out of him. And maybe I suspect him wrongly. And after all, what good it would be to me?
Axiano thought why he should ruin the life of Makka.
Well, old man, repeated the governor, tell me the truth. Who has been digging under the wall?
Again and again, the governor asked Axiano to say the truth.
Axiano glanced at Makka Semyonich and said, I cannot say, Your Honor, it is not God's will that I should tell. Do what you like with me. I am your hands.
He said that he could not tell the truth, and so they could punish him.
However much the governor tried, Axiano would say no more, and so the matter had to be left.
The governor tried a lot, but he could not get the truth from Axiano.
That night, when Axiano was lying on his bed and just beginning to doze, someone came quietly and sat down on his bed. He peered through the darkness and recognized Makka.
Axiano was on his bed on that night. Someone came and sat down near his bed. He could recognize that it was Makka.
What more do you want of me? Asked Axiano. Why have you come here?
He asked him what more he wasted from him.
Makka Semyonich was silent, so Axiano sat up and said, What do you want? Go away, or I will call the god.
Makka was silent, so Axiano shouted at him and asked him to move out of that place, otherwise he could call the god.
Makka Semyonich bent close over Axiano and whispered, Ivan Dimitrich, forgive me. What for? Asked Axiano. It was I who killed the merchant and hid the knife among your things. I meant to kill you too, but I heard a noise outside, so I hid the knife in your bag and escaped out of the window.
Makka asked Axiano to forgive him as he killed the merchant and kept the knife in his bag. He also said that he thought of killing Axiano also. But as he heard some noise outside, escaped through the window. Axiano was silent and did not know what to say. Makar Semyonich slid off the bed shelf and knelt upon the ground. Evendimtrich, said he, "Forgive me, for the love of God, forgive me. I will confess that it was I who killed the merchant, and you will be released and can go to your home." Axiano was silent, and Makar knelt before him and asked him to forgive him for the love of God. He also said that he would confess and Axiano could be released and go home.
"It is easy for you to talk," said Axiano, "but I have suffered for you these 26 years. Where could I go to now? My wife is dead and my children have forgotten me. I have nowhere to go."
Axiano said that Makar could talk easily. His wife had passed away and his children had forgotten him and he had no place to go.
Makar Semyonich did not rise but beat his head on the floor. "Ivan Dintich, forgive me," he cried. "When they flogged me with a knot, it was not so hard to bear as it is to see you now. Yet you had pity on me and did not tell. For Christ's sake, forgive me, wretch that I am." And he began to sob.
Makar said that he could not bear seeing Axiano like this, and even though he could bear the punishment with the knot, he pleaded him to forgive him on Christ's sake.
When Axiano heard him sobbing, he too began to weep. "God will forgive you," said he. "Maybe I am 100 times worse than you." And at these words, his heart grew light and the longing for home left him. He no longer had any desire to leave the prison, but only hoped for his lost child to come.
Makar said that he could not bear seeing Axiano like this, and even though he could bear the punishment with the knot, he pleaded him to forgive him on Christ's sake.
In spite of what Axiano had said, Makar Semyonich confessed his guilt. But when the order for his release came, Axiano was already dead.
But Makar had relieved the truth, and when the order for Axiano's release came, he was dead. The story suggests that truth always prevails, but one should have the patience to wait for the final result. Truth alone triumphs. At the end of the story, we find that there is a shift from materialism to spiritualism. It is for this reason that Axiano is finally freed from the pain of this world. He joins his Maker, that is, our Lord God. Thank you, students.